Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I just wanted to ask, how do you feel today? Feel free to answer this out loud or in your head. For me, when I'm asked this question, I usually respond with, I'm good or I'm doing okay. I don't normally think too much about it. Emotions are so very complicated sometimes, right? They can be hard to put into words. Luckily, there is a simple, yet arguably even more complicated alternative to using your words: colors. Have you ever wondered why you may feel a certain way about a certain color? Why is the color red almost always associated with anger or lust? Why is it when we see the color blue we think of sadness and depression? Well, this is actually a very interesting theory called color psychology. Color psychology is the theory that colors have some sort of effect on our emotions, but as you will see later, they have many more effects on us. Color psychology is a very new practice. Finding accurate resources for this project was actually difficult to find because, as you will learn, there are so many factors that contribute to the question, do colors affect our emotions? And if so, how? One thing to keep in mind are the three dimensions of color. These are saturation, hue, and brightness. These all play a major role in color psychology. The reason why proving this theory is so difficult is because there is almost an infinite number of combinations of the three dimensions that must be tested independently for the data to even become close to being accurate. And you can imagine how long that would take. For instance, imagine having to take all the different combinations of saturation, hue, and brightness just for the color blue. That would take forever, right? But thanks to the works of Wilms and Oberfeld, they were able to get some answers to our questions. Wilms and Oberfeld's study was able to prove that colors that are high in all three dimensions cause the most arousal ratings, which means that people's heart rates and electrical energy on the skin are seen to have increased when being shown a color like this. According to Wilms and Oberfeld, the color red creates the strongest arousal rating than any other color, while the color gray is at the bottom of this list. I believe that color psychology doesn't have to be as complicated as it is to understand. For example, why is the color red associated with anger? Maybe it has something to do with when someone gets angry, their blood flow tends to increase a lot, which results in veins popping in your neck and your face turning red from all the pressure and the warmth. The same concept can apply to the color pink as well. Most of us will blush a pinkish color when we are happy or overwhelmed. We often associate pink with happiness or joy, so that kind of makes sense to me. Now, it is good to know that these are just rationales that I could relate to, and that makes sense to me. So try to think about rationales that could relate to you too. For instance, even though water is not exactly blue, we always tend to use the color blue when we picture water. Maybe since our tears are also water, we could associate the color blue with tears, which are usually results of being sad. Maybe that's why the color blue is sometimes associated with sadness. Color psychology is all around us, and now that you know about it, you may be able to pick up on those subtle persuasions that it causes in our daily lives. For example, many fast food restaurants will use the color red in order to create a sense of hunger. Like we saw earlier, the color red does raise our arousal ratings. Is this a sneaky publicity trick, or is it just coincidence? Something I bet you might not have known about is that colors can actually be legally claimed. In 1995, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that colors alone can be legally trademarked. For example, in the phone industry, Verizon owns the color red, AT&T owns blue, Sprint owns yellow, and T-Mobile owns the color pink. Here are some of my final thoughts on the topic. First, color psychology is still a very new practice with little to no accurate data on it due to the extensive factors that must be included. These are the different combinations of hue, saturation, and brightness of colors. Second, colors do have some sort of effect on our emotions, but there are many things that you must consider. First is culture. Culture plays a big part in how we perceive the world, and this also includes how we perceive colors as well. For example, in Western cultures, the color white is often associated with words like pureness and holiness. We think of wedding dresses and light, but in Chinese culture, the color white is often associated with death. The second thing to consider is the different combinations of dimensions when looking at a certain color. For instance, when you see the color blue makes you sad, I would ask, what kind of blue? What hue, saturation, or brightness of blue did you see? And finally, you must consider whether it is the color that makes you feel that way, or is it the emotion that makes you think of that color? These are all very interesting questions that still have not been answered. Finally, these are some of my sources that I use to compile all my information. I hope I gave you something to actually think about. Thank you for watching.